welcome back to the channel here. If you're new here and you happen to catch us because of this fine RV that we're talking about a little bit in today's video, we typically ride these things, thrash them, climb mountains, make videos, all that rad stuff. So if you're interested in that, hit that subscribe button. If you're interested, and as I own this RV, I might get some updates and things like that. Stick around and you might find some content that you like. But for those of you who are regulars here, I'm sure there's a lot of you guys have been wondering how this Class C V10 RV is doing, and I've owed you this video for, I don't know, 6 months or so, since fall. So we'll jump back to the beginning. I bought this thing in I think it was middle of last summer. So wanted to get quite a few trips of hauling different things and going to different areas of the country under my belt before I really made this video, because I strive for honesty in this channel, and as much as it is my opinion, I really do want to have some facts behind it to tell you guys how it's doing before I talk about it and say it's the greatest thing on the planet. So anyways, I want to get a couple shots here before I unhook this trailer. This is the trailer and setup that we typically are towing in most of our stuff. Most of our trips is towing that. So I'm actually going to go weigh this setup later today. So I will throw a clip in when I weigh this setup and let you guys know what this trailer and rig weighs. So it'll probably be later on in this video. But it is 2 UTVs, fully caged with big tires and rims, aftermarket cages, so they're heavier than stock. I'm guessing somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 pounds. It is a 10,000 pound equipment trailer as well. So I'd guess somewhere between 6,000 and 8,000 pounds. It's kind of hard to guess exactly, but this it's a Class C Freedom Elite. It's a 30 FE is like the model of it. The Thor Freedom Elite 30 FE is like the actual model number, and it's about 32 feet bumper to bumper, and it's a V10 Ford chassis, and honestly, it's doing pretty good in my opinion. So we'll dive more into that stuff in a little bit here, but I just wanted to get a couple clips and show you guys the rig as it's fully hooked up, as we just returned from a trip. So I figured what better time than now to go ahead and grab a couple clips of this. All right, so let's get into it. First thing first, how does it tow? I think it tows pretty dang good. You got to have realistic expectations is the way that I'm trying to explain it. So I would say, is it like towing? You know, we all had diesel pickup trucks. Josh, a guy on our channel, he's got a 2020, I believe, 6.7 Power Stroke diesel. Granted, it's on 35s and big rims, but he's getting, I mean, with this exact setup, he was getting 7 to 9 miles to the gallon, like no joke, and that's 70 miles an hour cruise control. Granted, we're not slowing down at all. I mean, that's 70 through the hills, through the mountains, all that. Like, you know, the Power Stroke doesn't slow down, it doesn't struggle at all. It's got the power to pass whenever you want. You guys, I'm sure, understand that aspect. So moving to this freaking V10 house here, when I'm cruising on flat ground or normal ground, I mean little hills and stuff like that, you know, it'll cruise 70 miles an hour on cruise control, no issues. So typically I'm running 65 to 70 miles an hour, and when we get into the mountains, like in Tennessee and Kentucky, the extreme mountains, I mean, I'll get a little bit of a run if I see it coming, get a little bit of a run at the bottom, get up to 75 or so. And I mean, if you take it off of cruise control, it'll hold, it depends on the size of the mountain, it'll hold anywhere from, you know, you could keep it 65 at the top, by the time you get to the top still roll 65, or some of the big ones, I mean, you can cruise without making it downshift and scream, which obviously I'm not trying to blow the thing up. I'm not racing to get to the park or the mountains. So, I mean, if you slow down and have realistic expectations, it'll literally chug up any mountain that we've came across at 50 miles an hour with no effort. Like, I mean, that's 2,000 to 2,500 RPMs at 50 mile an hour. Sure, you're in the right lane, but just chug along with the other semis, and we don't pass through that many mountains where we have to slow down that much. Typically, you can go 60 to 65 just, I mean, yes, it downshifts sometimes and it'll go to 3,000 RPMs or whatever, but you just play with it. You kind of have to learn how to drive it. But I mean, in comparison, like if you wanted a diesel RV, it's big money. So I guess that being said, we'll talk about gas mileage quick. I've ran this setup multiple times I live in southern Wisconsin, so from here to Missouri, pretty hilly. I mean, you'd think it would be flat, but there is some decent hills, and we've gotten 7 to 9 miles of the gallon going that way. We just recently got back from running all the way to southern Tennessee, going through Kentucky mountains, Tennessee, Indiana, all that stuff, and same thing. I mean, we got like 7 to 8 miles a gallon on that trip because there was a lot more mountainy hills, and we had some pretty gnarly headwind. So we were running about a 20 mile an hour head crosswind on the way down, which I'll be honest, that was the worst time I've had driving this. It didn't sway, it didn't do anything weird in that sense, but this thing, I don't know if it's just this chassis or this brand in particular, but it does have like some play in the steering, which, you know, I've grown up driving lifted trucks all my life. That doesn't bother me. But when there's a gnarly crosswind, it did kind of suck. I mean, it got it done. We made it there. But I will say that part of it sucked. I don't know that like a Class A, how much different that would drive. I know a lot of people run some pretty wicked steering stabilizers to get rid of that play, and I guess that helps a lot. I don't have that, so I can't speak for those people. Might be something I do in the future. I'm not too positive. All right, so now we'll talk about this trailer here. Got an aluminum single place trailer that we can haul one of these rigs on, or a golf cart, something like that, something little, something light. And I got 7 to 9 miles a gallon towing that setup, going about 70 in the mountains, same deal. We've taken this thing to Florida from here in the winter, running the generator to run heat for the furnace. We've got little kids in the back, and car seats and stuff, so that even with running the generator unloaded, so we had no trailer for that trip, and we were getting same thing, 7 to 9 miles of the gallon. So basically you're getting 7 to 9 miles of the gallon whether or not you're towing or not, which is extremely interesting, but that's basically what it boils down to. Last trailer I want to talk about quick is this thing. It's a 20-foot enclosed car trailer. It is somewhat light for a car trailer. I've towed some really heavy car trailers in the past, and these tow great. So I know some of the heavier, bigger ones, I do believe it would probably struggle with those. But the trailer that I've got, it's actually the same trailer as my brother's, and it towed that the same as this, basically. It towed it great. We can't fit 2 UTVs in there, but what I do put in there is a C5 Corvette drift car, and I'd assume that it probably weighs about the same as this setup here. I mean, a Corvette weighs a little bit more than a UTV, and but there's only one, obviously, but I'd assume like the extra wind drag and that trailer probably weighs more than this trailer. So I think it's about same range, 6,000 to 7,000 pounds, maybe 8, I don't know. I haven't weighed it all, but so those are my trailer setups. I've been all over, and basically I've never gotten any worse than 7 miles of the gallon. When we were running that gnarly headwind, it was like 6.9 or something, but you know, 7, whatever. And then I've gotten as best as 9 miles a gallon. That was while towing this exact setup back from Indiana to Wisconsin, so a pretty flat drive. Must have had some wind that wasn't fighting me for once, but honestly, not too bad. Going back to the power stroke thing, I mean, we've towed with Duramaxes and stuff, and yeah, you can hit your cruise and you can run a long time and sustain speed, and I mean, you're getting, I don't think anybody's getting really better than probably 11 to 12 maybe, towing something like this, unless you're in the right lane doing about 60, 65, which sometimes we are doing that, but we're driving a freaking house down the road, so take that for what it's worth. Just being completely honest, I don't think it's too bad. I'm sure a lot of people probably do and think it's outrageous, but being realistic, I think it's pretty good. So last thing I want to talk about quickly is I'm not running any kind of sway hitch or anything like that. I'm just running a solid square tubing, or a solid piece of square steel that's a pretty long hitch to kind of bump it away from the rig a little bit, because the hitch is kind of farther under than like a pickup truck, under that way. So, you know, like my enclosed trailer gets pretty close to this ladder with like a normal hitch. So that's a little bit longer hitch, and that's why I got solid steel, so that way it retains the strength and it could bump it out a little bit. But the point of this was, that's the hitch setup I run for this trailer, that trailer, any trailer, and I have had zero issues with sway. So that was a big concern of mine buying this RV, was like, you know, how are these things going to sway when I'm going on the road? And I've had zero issues, which is awesome. So something else I wanted to note, I just want to put this in here. This is clearly mainly a rambling video of just me talking, and that's because this is all stuff that I was extremely curious on when I was looking for an RV, and all you could find was the towing rating, not real world expectations or real world examples of how it did. So speaking of my brother's Power Stroke, here it is. Alright guys, so I actually just went and weighed that trailer setup that you just seen, and it weighs about 7,500 pounds. So a little bit heavier than I expected. I thought 6,000 to 8,000. I was hoping right around the 7,000, but 7,500. So she's pretty heavy to do. I mean, to tow as well as it does for 7,500 pounds. I'm pretty happy with it. So I guess if you're in the market for an RV, that's probably why you're watching this video. I'll give you a couple key points, and maybe this will help you decide which one you want to go with. So I was torn between a fifth wheel toy hauler that I'd tow with a diesel truck, or a Class C gas like we're driving now, or a Class A gas, or a Class A diesel. Obviously a Class A diesel would be sweet, but in the price range I was looking to stay, a Class A diesel I would have had to get like an early 2000s, so probably like a 02 to 05 maybe. Class A diesel for the price of what I could get this 2017 Class C gas. So to me, it just seemed like I'd rather have a newer machine with newer air conditioner, newer appliances. I mean, way less miles. This one's only got 17,000 miles. So that was my big thing. I do know that the downsides to the Class C is you have less storage on like the inside and outside of the rig. I mean, there's decent storage inside, I'll say that, and I'll show you guys in a little bit the storage, but there's not as much like big storage outside as a Class A, from what I understand. And then storage on water and waste, I'll call it, so your gray and black tanks, that stuff's a lot bigger on I believe that stuff's a lot bigger on a Class A. I mean, just something to keep in mind. Check that stuff when you're looking at models of units. I will say that this is a little bit on the small side for water storage and waste storage from what I kind of expected. I mean, 2 or 3 people can't last a weekend with the showering and using, you know, the drains and everything in this thing without dumping. You'd be full basically if you shower once a day, each person. So just something to note. I know this video is mainly about towing, but I'm also throwing in here this bottom section throwing in here this last section of the video on like why I chose what I chose and pros and cons. Alright, so now let's talk toy hauler. Fifth wheel toy hauler that you can tow behind a diesel. I mean, to tow one of those behemoth units, they're absolutely sick. The inside of those things are sweet. You have so much room because like you have over the bed of the truck, and obviously just walk around one and you'll see the plus sides to those. Storage is way bigger. The slides are bigger because you don't have the drivetrain, so the slides can suck under the machine a lot bigger. So that's definitely positives to the toy hauler. The negative for me is I've got a little baby at home and planning on having 2 kids in my lifetime, so it's like I'm gonna have little kids for a while, and the big thing to a motorhome is like my wife can just jump out of the passenger seat, and you know, if the kid needs a bottle or a toy or whatever, it's a lot easier to entertain a baby rather than having to jump like from the front seat to the back seat of her truck, or stop every time he cries or she cries. You know, like that was my biggest thing. I wanted something that made traveling with a little one easier, and to me, a motorhome was definitely the way to go. So on top of, you'd have to have, you know, to have a nice fifth wheel toy hauler, you'd be spending big bucks, and then to tow something that big, you need to have a really expensive diesel truck. So I mean, you kind of had to have both, and you could get a classy motorhome almost for the same price as a nice toy hauler fifth wheel. So it's like, and yeah, you have to maintain this engine, but another downside to this setup is obviously, you know, if you go camping somewhere, you don't have a vehicle then to just unhook and drive into town. Like you have to drive this into town. Yeah, so like positives and negatives. I mean, obviously a lot of these things I think you guys think about yourself if you're in the market, but just trying to throw out key points on maybe will steer you one way or the other. Let's talk about gas versus diesel. So I thought that gas, I mean, the obvious price difference, we kind of talked about it. You get a newer machine or a newer unit for if you buy gas, but then also gas is generally cheaper than diesel, so that's cool. You don't have to worry about finding fuel stations that have diesel. You can pretty much stop at any gas station you want, which is nice. And then also oil changes and service and everything like that is way simpler in a gas vehicle. So, or way cheaper in a gas machine. I mean, it's a V10 that's been around forever. You know, this stuff's dirt cheap for them. So then another thing about gas versus diesel, and I mean, I know some of you guys that are dead set on diesel, I understand your opposite viewpoints. I like diesels too, but just it didn't make sense for me. So another thing was, if this thing has an alternator, a water pump, a starter, anything like that fail, I mean, I can literally buy any of that, any accessory. It's all simple to change on a freaking V10. It's a van, you know, so I don't have to worry about finding an alternator for whatever Cummins comes in the big Class A diesel, or Cat that might come in it, you know, the Cat engine or whatever. It's just parts are going to be, in my opinion, obviously I don't know this for sure, this isn't a fact, but I think parts would be more readily available on the road for me to fix this thing than I would a big diesel Class A. So then real quick, two more key points I forgot to talk about. This thing rides great while driving down the road, like suspension wise. You hit bumps, bridges, whatever, this thing floats. It rides great, even towing 7,500 pounds. So for anybody that's wondering how they rides amazing, I think. And I'm pretty certain that everything is 100% stock on this thing, just the way it came, stock shocks, all that stuff. Another thing to note is when you're towing or a fifth wheel, you can only have so many people in the cab of the truck, especially if you got car seats and babies. That stuff fills up quick. So, you know, for example, me, my wife, my brother, his wife, and our combined 2 kids all took this thing to Florida. You couldn't do that in one truck, so we were able to split fuel, take this to Florida, and everybody was able to ride together in this thing. So that's kind of a cool upside to a motorhome as well. All right, guys, so a couple things I missed here that I noticed as I'm editing this. Another reason why I didn't choose a gas Class A was because it comes with the same drivetrain as the gas Class C, and the Class A is obviously just a bigger unit, so it weighs more, so then it lowers your towing rating. And obviously, as you guys see in the beginning of this video, I'm towing pretty heavy, so towing rating was pretty important to me, and it's just common sense. I mean, you have a little bit smaller of a rig with the same drivetrain, it's obviously going to do a little bit better than a huge rig with the same drivetrain towing the same thing. Then other note was on the fifth wheel aspect, motorhome versus fifth wheel, I guess. Go back to that conversation. A big thing for me was I could tow a car, I can tow a boat, I can tow side-by-sides, I could tow a golf cart. You know, I could tow 2 side-by-sides, whereas lots of those toy haulers, you can fit 1 rig in the garage. You can't fit a car or you can't tow a boat, you can't, you know, that type of thing. So to me, to be as versatile as a motorhome, to where you can do whatever, where you can just jump in the motorhome and go camp with the family, like it can do all of that very well. So that was my biggest thing. You can basically tow, you know, any of your hobbies of the future or now. So that was huge for me. But just want to throw this in there. All right, so I'll give you guys a little quick tour for anybody that's curious what the inside of one of these things looks like, and you haven't started looking at one yet. I got the bunkhouse model, so there's different floor plans that are available. I think it makes the shower a little bit tighter, but I wanted to be able to sleep more people if needed, so that's why I was in search of the bunkhouse one. So anyways, here's the front door. You walk in, here's the front half. You got a couch right there. It's got seat belts underneath it if you want to wear a seat belt if anybody's riding on here while you're driving. It's got a table here. This comes up, and then obviously there's cushions for over there too, and this also folds down into a bed as well. We're running it basically just as like storage because we didn't need the table. We were eating outside, and we didn't need the bed either, so use it for storage. There's pretty decent storage underneath there. This one, there is storage as well. There's a little bit of electrical in there, and then the seat belts are in there too. So if anybody's curious, I know I was when I was looking at this, wondering if you could run car seats in these things. They do have a normal steel structure that's bolted to the frame. At least this one does, the Thor Freedom Elite. I don't know about all of them, but it's got a lap belt here that you can run your car seat in. I mean, it's basically personal preference if you want to trust that it's safe enough or not. I'm not looking to get into that debate, so be your own judge on that one. But here's the front of the rig. Honestly, the chairs are really comfortable. Captain's chairs. It's got a touch screen with Bluetooth radio and all that crap. It does have a backup camera, which is nice, really nice, and you can leave it on while you're driving, so you can watch your trailer back there. Then above the cab, that's a pretty good. It's about a queen size bed with a TV that swings out, so you can watch it from the couch, or when this is looking like a table, you can watch your TV. So the one thing I will say that's a serious con about the floor layout that I have is the back of this here doesn't allow your chair to come back all the way, so it is very tight up in that corner. I mean, I'm a 6-foot dude. I'm pretty big. I fit in there. It's fine. It's just not where you would want to be for a big road trip. I mean, me and Josh both ride up there the whole trip, and I mean, there's no issues. It's just kind of a dumb setup, really. So I mean, I think eventually I'll probably customize this, make this piece removable, so that way the chair can come back a little bit, because as you can see, there's plenty of room for the slider. It's literally just this back piece that's hitting. So just something to note. You be the judge if you're looking at these things. But then moving back, we've got the little kitchen here, and this slide is out, so basically from there all the way to here is the slide, as you can see, which it's pretty tight with the slides in, but you can still walk around and everything like that. Got a sink, stove, microwave, cook your pizzas in there, and all storage above here, as you would imagine. I mean, there's pretty decent storage. I'd say storage all up in there, storage below there, storage below the fridge. You got the fridge, pretty legit. Runs on propane if you want. If you don't have electric or you're not running the generator, it'll run on propane while you're driving, and then when you plug in and it's already cold, runs on the generator or electric. As we move back here, this is what I was talking about the bunkhouse model. So it's got a set of bunk beds here. This folds up. The top one folds up and locks up in a position if you're not using it or you don't need it for storage. That way you're not so cramped on the bottom. But also because this does do the same thing, and this turns into a table as well, so then you'd have two actual like kitchen tables, so kind of cool. Then over here we got like our command center, you want to call it that. We've got gauges for tells you your propane, your battery, your fresh water, black, gray, and then all your controls for water heater, water pump, all that kind of stuff. And then in here, right to the left of that, you got the bathroom. Pretty tight, but gets the job done. shower works good. Everything works pretty good. Like I was saying, I do believe it's a little tighter on this model because of the bunkhouse stuff, but it was a sacrifice that was nice. So in the future, you can have the kids sleep here, or if it's a guy's trip, you know, you could fit a couple extra dudes in here if they want to grab a bunk bed. And back here, you got the master bedroom, which is a queen size bed. And then this whole thing from there all the way to the front of this bunk is a slide as well. And normally when it's sucked in, it's touching the bed here. So when it's pushed out, it gives you room to get back in here. Gets to the closet. This is a spot to hang a TV if you want, but there's decent storage behind that too. And then you got drawers, bunch of cabinets, all kinds of storage basically. So that kind of wraps up the inside. I'm gonna bump this thing in, and then I'll give you guys a quick run around, a quick walk around on the outside, and that'll wrap this video up. Also, one thing to note, this bed does fold down into a couch. I forgot to say that earlier. And then I just want to give you guys a quick shot of what it looks like with the slides fully in. So you got a little path walkway here. The bed actually does fold down into the bed and fit with the slide in if you someone wanted to sleep here while driving. And then got your little walkway here. You can still get in the fridge, still get in the bathroom, you can still get to the bed, just is a little bit tight, but that is with both sides fully closed in. So then outside, this is obviously what it looks like. Your basic Class C motorhome. And there's quite a few small storage compartments. I'll show you guys around them quick. It's got a outdoor TV, which is pretty rad, behind this compartment. And it's on like a swivel bracket, so it does pull out away from the rig. So that's kind of cool. And then it's got multiple compartments like this. They're about, I don't know, 10 inches tall, somewhat deep, about probably 2 foot deep. And you can fit quite a bit of stuff in all those. So I'm not gonna open them all up and show you guys, but there's one storage there, the TV there, storage here, here, and then this one. You got your ladder, get up on the roof. And then back here, I'll show you guys this storage one, because this one is the big one. So this one is pretty big. You can actually access through it. The master bed is above here, and there's a hole on the feet of the master bed, so you could get to that spot. If you want to put stuff like way in there, you can get to it from inside once it's buried from here, if that makes any sense. This one's got a light, which is pretty sweet, but obviously pretty good sized storage in that one. That's your only main one. And when I was talking earlier about the Class A's having more storage, I believe they have more storage, at least the one I looked at has more big storage like that, which would be nice for a guy like me who's got a lot of big stuff for the hobbies that I'm towing. But there's your sewer and wastewater connection, an outdoor shower, and then storage, and then that's generator access. Sorry about the road noise, it is pretty loud. I live on a busy road. But aside from that, that's about it. If you guys got any more questions, drop them down below. I'll do my best to answer them in the comments. Only other cool little features it's got is it's got awnings that automatically come out with the slides to keep leaves and stuff from collecting on top of your slides. And then it's got an LED light up there and a light here. And then it's also got, which is pretty sweet, is a automatic awning with the push of a button, as you can see there, which is nice for setting up, ease of setup. But yeah, man, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you stuck around this whole time, thanks for watching. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Overall, I'm happy with my purchase. I think I'll keep it for quite a while. I don't see myself changing. I mean, obviously, if I was loaded and I had $100,000 to spend on a rig, I would get a Class A diesel just because I had the money. But for the budget I'm in, this thing's a nice rig, and I'm happy with it. So thanks for watching, guys. See you on the next one. After this, you guys are gonna get some footage from AOP Adventure Off-Road Park for all these side-by-side guys that are watching this. Absolute epic beatdown. Stay tuned for that. It's gonna be sick.